Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Saturday, October 5th. Today is day 365. This marks 1 year, 365 days since October 7th. It's a leap year, which is why there's an extra day in the year. And I don't have words for what's transpired. What can be said? God have mercy. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. The World Health Organization said on Thursday from Geneva on October 3rd, this was reported by Reuters, that at least 28 on-duty medics have been killed in the 24 hours preceding in Lebanon, where Israel launched airstrikes, sent troops to fight Hezbollah in the escalating conflict. The World Health Organization called attention to the deaths of those medics in the escalating conflict. In terms of Israel and Lebanon, citing security sources in Israel, Sky News Arabia reported that Hashem Safadine, the front runner, who was believed to be succeeding Hezbollah's deceased former chief, Hassan Nasrallah, was killed in an airstrike last night into Friday on Beirut. Hamas-affiliated media reported today that Saeed Attallah, a senior commander in Hamas, the Izz al-Din al-Qassam brigades, was killed, as were 3 of his family members, in an Israeli airstrike on a Palestinian refugee camp in the northern Lebanese city of Tripoli. This was the first Israeli airstrike on the Sunni majority port city, and the IDF said that Mohammed Hussein Ali al-Mahmoud, who was manufacturing weapons and planning attacks in the West Bank on behalf of Hamas, was also killed in Lebanon. We also know that the Air Force attacked Hezbollah members in a command center that was set up inside of a mosque. This was reported by the IDF. This was a significant deal because the Salah Gandor Hospital in South Lebanon was near the mosque where it was reported that Hezbollah had set up a command center. The IDF's Air Force attacked the intelligence infrastructure there. The Times of Israel reported that the IDF has plummeted Hezbollah. It says there were 440 terror operatives killed since the ground operation began. That's the Times of Israel. On Saturday, the Israeli army reported that it attacked the Daya neighborhood in Baalbek, and Hezbollah-affiliated outlet Al Mayadeen reported that 6 Israeli airstrikes in Daya. There were 6 attacks and airstrikes over the course of just 1 hour. But the main message here is that there have been continual attacks on territories throughout Lebanon. The health ministry there said 25 people were killed and 127 wounded in strikes yesterday. UN peacekeeping chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix said on Thursday that UN peacekeepers are staying in their positions on the south border. This was a significant issue, despite Israel's request that they vacate the areas before it began its ground operation against Hezbollah. The request for these peacekeeping forces to evacuate infuriated many who were part of the UN system. Dozens of rockets were launched from Lebanon to northern Israel today on Saturday. Some were intercepted, some fell into open areas. A rocket struck a building in North Israel's Deir al-Assad. 3 people were wounded. There were rocket barrages that started fires throughout the north. Hezbollah said it launched rockets this morning at Ramat David Air Base, which is located near the Israeli city of Haifa on the Mediterranean. The IDF said today, and this has been all over the news, I've been hearing it quite significantly, that Israel is preparing to attack Iran at any minute. There is expected to be a major strike on Iran. We also know that the Iranian strike fired 180 missiles earlier this week. The head of U.S. CENTCOM chief arrived in Israel. I read one report that said to coordinate the Iranian attack. Another just said to have conversations, but we've heard tons of reports that this attack on Iran is imminent. It may very well happen tonight. The Iranian foreign minister pledged stronger retaliation if Israel does strike Iran. And meanwhile, when the foreign minister, Arachi, was in Beirut for meetings. He's the foreign minister of Iran, said that Tehran supports an Israel-Lebanon ceasefire, but that it is contingent on a simultaneous truce in Gaza. So Iran has said that they would have a stronger retaliation if they are struck, but that they support a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, but it is contingent on a truce in Gaza. President Biden said yesterday that Israelis have not concluded what they are doing in terms of a strike. It seems like, at least according to the news right now, that they now have determined, because everything we're hearing is saying it's coming any minute. He said, if I were in their shoes, I would think about alternatives other than striking the oil fields. There seem to be concerns from the US and Europe that if Iran's oil facilities are struck, that there are concerns about how it will affect the global oil markets. The Biden administration is particularly concerned that it will affect the world economy in a negative way, especially with the US presidential elections just a month away. It could, of course, particularly negatively affect Harris's campaign, being that she is a part of the Biden administration. Yesterday, it was said that the U.S. airstrikes targeted Houthis in several cities in Yemen, and that the port city of Hodeidah, as well as the capital city of Sana'a, Houthi-run media and U.S. sources reported. In Gaza, senior U.S. officials told the New York Times that there is no definitive proof of life related to the Hamas leader Sinwar, but they do believe he is alive. Communications between Sinwar and the outside world have been cut off as of late. So some Israeli officials have questioned whether or not he's alive. Al Jazeera, I wanted to just share these reports. This is an Al Jazeera report that said Israel issued a new evacuation order in Gaza as attacks on the Nusrat refugee camp killed 12 people. Palestinians living near the Netzarim quarter in central Gaza were told to leave as Israel prepares a great force against Hamas. Haaretz reported about the same incident and said that the army was using an Arabic language spokesperson calling on residents of Barej and Nusrat refugee camps in central Gaza to evacuate today ahead of operations against terrorist groups. So Haaretz reports an evacuation, and Al Jazeera reported 12 people killed. The death toll in Gaza as of today is at least 41,825 Palestinians killed. The Washington Post published a significant article I would encourage you to read about how Hamas built an underground war machine to ensure its own survival, talking about its self-sufficiency, the weapons factories, well-stocked fortifications, how a year after the war began, parts of the group still remain deeply entrenched. There are accounts about how under Sinwar's leadership, Hamas relentlessly focused on achieving self-sufficiency, including a capacity to produce its own weapons and explosives, to carry out an elaborate operation involving thousands of participants and maintaining complete secrecy. Analysts say Gaza's devastation, and I want to highlight this, we have been saying this over and over and over again to the White House, and here the experts are confirming it. Analysts say Gaza's devastation is spurring recruitment, driving legions of embittered or desperate youth into the arms of Hamas. The longer the war on Gaza continues, the longer the atrocities on Palestinians in Gaza continue, the more Israel is encouraging violence against itself. U.S. federal law enforcement agencies called for vigilance ahead of the one-year anniversary of October 7th. The official one-year anniversary is on Monday, warning that the day will be a motivating factor for violent extremist and hate crime perpetrators to engage in violence or threaten public safety. Speaking about the conflicts in Lebanon and Gaza while meeting with leaders from Muslim and Arab communities on Friday, Vice President Kamala Harris said that a diplomatic solution is the best path to achieve stability and protect civilians. A Columbia University student group called Columbia University Apartheid's Divest, this was reported in Haaretz. It says that the group praised the Tel Aviv shooting that killed 7 Israelis, including a mother who died protecting her baby, as a significant act of resistance against Israeli forces and settlers. In terms of hostages and ceasefire negotiations, demonstrations demanding the return of hostages, marking 1 year since their abductions, were set for tonight across Israel, following Home Front Command's emergency restrictions. At the same time, a separate protest against the government was planned to take place outside of Netanyahu's home in Caesarea. In the West Bank, 5 Palestinians and 3 settlers were wounded after Jewish settlers attacked a group of Palestinians who were harvesting olives near Tulkarm in the West Bank. And Syrian state media reported that defenses confronted hostile aerial targets in the Homs countryside. 4 Americans are still held hostage by Hamas a year after the October 7th attacks, as the year anniversary approaches. I spent the afternoon today at the Tent of Nations. Many of you know the Nasser family, and you can't get to the farm any longer through the entrance, from Bethlehem, where we would park and then walk up to the Tent of Nations. You now have to go around a back entrance, and it took me actually almost 2 hours, like 90 minutes to 2 hours. I couldn't find the way, and you have to go through Ne'alim. So I did get lost, but the Nasser family, and it takes like an hour anyway, and I got lost. But the Nasser family currently only has access to about 50% of their farm. They fear being shot at or being attacked by settlers or by Palestinians. There are Palestinians that are supporting the settlers. And they have been attacked, as they did last year, but they fear settler reprisals just for being on their own land. I walked the property today with the family some and prayed with them and spent the afternoon there. There are currently caravans parked right up against the property. I could not believe it. I just could not. I couldn't fathom. I've been looking at these maps for months. I've been hearing these stories from Dawood for months, and I just couldn't fathom it until I didn't understand it. I just didn't understand. I was astounded by what I witnessed. If you are interested in being a volunteer, international accompaniment is one of the most significant things that can be done to serve this family, and it will not only serve this family, it will serve Palestinian human rights as a witness. So reach out to us if you're interested in that. On the way back to Jerusalem, I got a flat tire. I was lost somewhere again in the back roads of Bethlehem, and I pulled over to an auto shop, and no one really spoke English. And I kind of said in my broken Arabic, would you please look, here and help, that kind of thing. And I told them a bit of what I was up to. And these young men put a spare tire on my car, and they got everything fixed and running again. And not only that, they insisted that I not pay a penny. They wouldn't let me give them a tip. They wouldn't take a credit card. They wouldn't take cash. They would not let me pay a thing. Not a penny. And they sent me on my way back to Jerusalem. And it ends up I was in a refugee camp. I don't know if I was in Daesh, or I don't know which refugee camp I was in. I was trying to find it on the map. But the hospitality of the Palestinians in the midst of this horror was overwhelming and humbling. And there is hope in the midst of this brokenness, and light continues to shine in the midst of this darkness. So we will not give up in our efforts towards peace. May God go before us in the name of Christ. Amen.